Hello, welcome to chapter 39, Event Handlers for Dynamically Created Element, brought to you by Ankpro Technologies. My name is Harish. In this session, we are going to learn about how to add event handlers to the dynamically created elements. So without wasting much time, let me jump into demo and let me show you there. And here comes my Visual Studio. So what I'll do is right now, I'll take a div element, and within the div element, let me add a paragraph element, let me add a content telling like lorem ipsum. Okay, let me copy this paragraph element and let me paste it thrice. Okay, now let me push this page to the browser. Okay, now what happens is it renders the web page on the browser, and here comes 4 paragraphs. Now what I'll do is I'll go to the style tag and let me write bit of styles there. So my div element, it has to have a background, have a border of 4 pixel, sorry, it's 2 pixel, solid crimson. Let me do Control S. Let me go back and let me refresh. Here you can observe we have a div element. Within the div we have 4 paragraph elements. Now my objective is, now as soon as I click on this paragraph element, okay, this paragraph element has to get fade out. So how can I achieve that? So what I need to do is, first I need to identify the div element. Before that, I have to verify whether my DOM is loaded completely or not with the help of ready function of jQuery. So once it is ready, I have to call an anonymous function. What is this anonymous function is going to do? Is this anonymous function, it is going to identify a div element. Okay, let me identify that div element directly by tag name. Okay, then what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to call on method. In on method, I can pass a event as well as I can call the respective function handler. Okay, here I'm going to tell like, sorry, this is not a div element. I have to identify the paragraph. On the paragraph, I have to click. Once I click the paragraph, that text has to get fade out. So what I need to do is I need to tell dollar this, the respective keyword indicates to the particular paragraph clicked. Okay, fade out the content by 500 milliseconds. So when I do Control S, let me go back and let me refresh. Now when I click on the paragraph element, you can observe very clearly the complete paragraph elements get faded out. Why? Because this piece of code does that work. Okay, I'm telling like identify a paragraph, then I'm calling on method. In on method I can pass a event as well as anonymous function of it, and that works cool. Okay, my next objective is, let me tell you, let me add input element of the type button, and let me remove this name. As of now it's not required, and let me add an ID to that button. The ID is my btn, and the value is add new para which paragraph. Now let me go back, and below that let me add some break elements such that the content looks good there. Let me go back and let me refresh. Here you can observe we have a button and the div element with 4 paragraphs. Now my objective is, when I click on this add new paragraph button, new paragraphs element has to get added inside this div element. So how can I achieve that? So first what I need to do is I need to identify a div element. So sorry, button element. So the ID of the button is my button dot, let me call on. Here I'm going to trigger a click event, so I'm going to call a function there. What is this anonymous function has to do? This anonymous function, what it is gonna do is it's going to, let me take a variable like add para, and here I'm going to tell like, okay, let me call a paragraph, let it be capital L such that it will be unique. Okay, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to dollar, I want to append this to div element. So first I want to identify the div by tag name directly, then I have to go with the caps small, yes, dot append add para with semicolon to control s. Let me go back and let me refresh. Okay, now when I click on this button, you can observe the paragraph elements are getting added. Okay, now let me click on this first four paragraph elements. They're getting fade out. Why? We have become we have written the relevant code for that, but these three, okay, these three paragraph elements are added dynamically, okay, with the help of this button. Okay, when I click on the button, the paragraph dynamically get adds into the div element, but now when I click on that, they're not getting fade out. So how to write a code for that? Now it's very simple. Once it adds, then I'm going to call on. Okay, what this on method has to do is it has to take a event. The event is click event. Then I'm going to call a anonymous function. Then I'm going to tell like identify this. Someone clicks on the paragraph element, just make it fade, just fade it out by 500 milliseconds. Control S. Let me go back and let me refresh again. Now let me add paragraphs. The first four will get fade out because they are into the div element previously. These two are added from this button dynamically, so now these also get fade out because this piece of code does that work. Okay, now we have written this piece of code, but there is a problem with this piece of code. The problem with this approach is that we are binding a click event handler to each paragraph element. You can observe very clearly we are binding click event handler to each of the paragraph element. You can observe here. Okay, this means if you have 200 paragraph elements, then there will be 200 event handlers in the memory, and this may negatively affect the performance of our application. But how can I solve this? This approach can be improved in many ways. So let me start coding for that. It's very simple. So what I'll do is, now instead of identifying the paragraph element, then clicking that paragraph element, then it gets fade out. Instead of doing that, let me give a parent element. Okay, after this click, let me call a paragraph element. So now what happens is, now when I do control S, and this code works fine. You can observe here this paragraph still gets fade. Why? Because let me tell you. Okay, now this paragraph element is not having any event handler right now. So when I click on the paragraph element, okay, that when that click will be transferred to the parent element. Okay, because the parent element is having that event handler which does that work. So now this paragraph element is not having any event handler, so when someone clicks on that, that click will be transferred to the div, and div is having that event handler which fades out the paragraph within 500 milliseconds. So this can be done for this also. Now instead of appending it to the paragraph directly, what I'll do is, let me just remove this. We remove this. So here, instead of identifying the paragraph element then calling, what I'll do is just first I'll tell like take a div element. To the div you just append the paragraph. Okay, that fade out part will be executed here itself. Then I no need to explicitly write that. Let me end up with the semicolon. Okay, now you can observe very clearly what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to identify a button. Then I want to remove this. We have the extra one. That's the reason it is showing a green squiggly there. And this, now when I do control S, let me go back and let me refresh. Now when I click on add new paragraphs have been added. Now when I click on this, it's getting fade out, the other rest 4 also. So let me explain this piece of code what I've written here. Okay, keep in mind when I click on the paragraph element, the event gets bubbled up to its parent element. Okay, because this paragraph element does not have any event handler. Okay, the bubbled event is handled by the parent element, that is div element. Okay, as it has a click event handler. You can observe here very clearly. Okay, and again, when a newly paragraph element is added dynamically, we don't need to add the click event handler to it. Okay, because the newly created paragraph element is added to the same parent div element, and that will take care of it. So what we learned from here is like how to add event handlers to the dynamically created elements, and we saw a beautiful demo of it. So finally, thank you for listening. Have a great day. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel Ankpro Training. You can also like our Facebook page visiting this URL. You can also follow us on Twitter. For further reference, ref our website. We are on LinkedIn too. Last but not the least, please don't forget to give the feedback. Thank you. Have a great day.